So here it is, another crossover episode of the Steel Plaza podcast. With us, Chief Philosophical Officer Andy Hoke from Andy's Philosophy Corner. Andy, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks. I feel very at home here.
Yeah, I bet you do, because it's your house.
It is my house.
So we're in Andy's house, and I wanted to do a drop in the stop by, and I wanted to ask you just an overall general question. Have we collectively lost our minds as a society? Have we done that?
That's an excellent question. I'm reminded, I try not to use too many big words because everybody hates someone that tries to sound smarter than they are, but the zeitgeist.
The zeitgeist.
The spirit of the times, that's German. I'm also concerned about that, and it reminds me of this Aldous Huxley quote. To be able to abuse people with impunity is the height of psychological luxury.
Sure. So I guess what I was asking and what I was getting at is we are in a time and age right now where everyone is finding a common enemy, okay? They're finding a common enemy and they are banding together, okay? The common enemy being you're the guy or girl or woman or whomever you are that did not get a vaccine, or you are the guy and girl or whomever that did get the vaccine. So there's two different sides of people finding a common enemy and they're banding together.
Yeah, I think when people are afraid, especially, they want or they need that reassurance or what you call confirmation bias, where people research information really with the intention to just reinforce their own existing values and opinions, to reassure themselves. And in doing that, yeah, people do form up and form alliances. And if it's about getting a vaccine or not, or if it's about other subjects, politics, we do a pretty nice job of staying clear of here, but people definitely
absolutely
form groups when it comes to that. And I mean, got this American flag here. From many comes one, e pluribus unum. And I think that's always been an overriding philosophy that. But are people getting crazy? Yeah, I think kind of they are. I mean, I think fear
plays a major part in it, and I think that if you band together and just jump in the same bucket with a lot of people that share the same perspective, you feel a lot safer.
Yes, you get reassurance for things you have done or will do.
Right.
It's not my fault because, or I'm sort of drifting a little bit, but maybe you are informed a certain way and act based on that information, when in fact there was a problem with the information. You might kind of know that, but you don't. You intentionally act as if it might be false, even though you act as if it's true even though you think it may be false, is what I was...
Right, but you have these torch carriers on either side that say, if you did this, you're a piece of shit, or if you didn't do this, you're a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. You have the torch carriers, right? So, when do we all come together?
Thanksgiving.
No,
I was just thinking of that because I just watched a crazy Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah.
About the real origins of Thanksgiving, which is entertaining to say the least. If you're a fan of the show, of course. I think people need to focus on other things for at least a little bit, or you have to get tired enough of the current division.
Right.
I personally have many friends, most are musicians, but many people disagree with me about things like the shot or things like politics. But I have maintained friendships for a long, long time, and it's one
So
of those.
you were able to find a common ground.
Well, it's not the purpose of why we get together. For example, in the bands I play in, folks, not everybody is on one side or the other. It's just not something we bring up. It's not why we're there. It's like when
Right.
I teach students the guitar. I am there to teach the guitar and absolutely nothing else.
Right, right.
It really,
It creates like a very icy subject, especially with a lot of bands that I know. A lot of bands that I know have broken up over this, just parted ways because they couldn't see eye to eye on everything that's going on. And family members won't talk to each other, especially my family because of this. And it's a crazy thing. It's absolutely insane to think that, hey, we grew up together. We did this, we did that, but now we're so saturated with this or that. Now we can't talk.
that's a horrible shame when any outside force messes up a good relationship. I've had very good success with that's not why we're there. Things are always happening in politics. People are always going to be mad at each other in politics.
Sure.
And especially as I spend time with people my age and older, no offense to anyone younger. But I think as you get older, you do mellow and you do see, okay, well, I've been alive for, let's see, 8 or 9 presidential administrations. So for any of the younger listeners or viewers, these things, I won't say they blow over, but I think after you've been alive for 30, 40, 50 years, you slowly, after, probably closer to 40 or 50, but you start to mellow a little bit and you can maintain friendships.
You can.
And you can be perfectly well aware that you don't agree. And there's really no reason to bring it up. And especially since arguments with friends or family, people rarely change their mind.
They rarely do. And there's also the idea that even if you disagree with somebody on the subject, on the topic, okay, so they might never bring it up, but in the back of their mind, right, they're going to go home and they're going to tell their significant other, right, you wouldn't believe what Andy thinks.
Right.
Or you wouldn't believe what Adam thinks.
Right.
And there's that background animosity that's going on.
Sure. The end result is almost always the same thing with if it's Facebook or Twitter or any of the other social media out there that people use to attack each other.
And that's a good point, to attack each other. Because
Right.
that's what it seems everything is.
Right.
Here is a tool where you can attack someone. Not only that, you can attack them guilt-free, right?
As Aldous Huxley pointed out, it is the height of psychological luxury to be able to accuse people with impunity, which is what he said. Just earlier this year, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was apparently Mike Tyson has been attributed for saying something like, the problem today is that you don't get punched in the face for saying some of this stuff.
He did say that. He
Yeah.
He did say that, yeah.
Things you would never say to a person in person. Person,
Right. I know what you mean, yeah.
Right.
So he's absolutely right because his famous quote was, "Everybody's got something to say until they get punched in the face," was his famous quote. That was his
Well, I
famous
heard that,
quote,
but I
yeah.
also heard another version where he's basically pointing out that people would never say or write these things if that other person was standing next to them or sitting next to them.
Right. Right.
Because it would result in actual physical violence.
Yeah, absolutely. and this was way before the age of Facebook, way before the age of the internet, way before the age of, even if you want to go back to MySpace, when these things didn't exist. If somebody said that, and you're in a crowd of people, right? Somebody's gonna, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that because he's standing right there. You know what I mean? So.
Right, and so these increasingly large online groups just insult or laugh at the other side.
Yeah.
And it could be any subject of controversy. It could
be literally anything.
It could be guns. It could be what's being taught in schools.
Right.
It could be anything that is potentially divisive. If it's potentially divisive, it's divisive.
Even vegans versus meat eaters, anything. Yeah. You know, it could be literally anything, and you're going to divide into groups, and you're going to attack each other, right?
Right.
And that's where we're at right now.
Well, I am hoping that some other people will find other things to do with their time. There are better things to do with your time than to seek out people online and unleash your vitriol and the snarkiest, latest meme to try to insult people. And that's part of the problem, too. It'll be one thing if it was, Adam, I hate what you said. Instead of saying, Adam, I hate you.
Right.
You know, or just talk about you. In logic, it's a common fallacy called the ad hominem against the person. So you might say, I like to have a ham on Thanksgiving instead of turkey. And we could argue about that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, but
too salty. I don't know.
Right, but we could argue about that. So instead of me saying, Adam, you're a fool for wanting ham on Thanksgiving,
right,
I might say, I don't think that's a great move having ham on Thanksgiving. I think that's evil. I think it's an evil move. I think it's evil. So
right, it's beyond the realms of science, right?
Right, and something else happens when you. This is kind of where it really does get kind of scary when you look at what happened in Germany in the 30s. One way to characterize those events was that a certain part of the population was deemed to be subhuman.
Right.
And if someone's subhuman, well, then you're not really attacking a person. And
well, I think that's where the idea of like second-class citizen came to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
To subhumanize, and then it's so. And for anyone who's ever seen an angry mob, it's one of the scariest things I think you'll ever see, because you have this enormous bloodthirsty group with really no reason, you know, more pitchforks and torches than good sense, or
the torch carriers, right?
Right, or
because you want to fall in line with everybody that's doing the same thing you are.
Well, there's that bloodlust, you know.
Right.
There's that 2 minutes of hate from 1984, where everybody just gets together and hates. Hate's a bad emotion. I think it's bad for the person who hates. It's not just bad for everyone else around you. It's bad for you if you keep that inside. I'm just convinced of it. So there is a world of difference between being mad at what you did or upset about what you said and saying, I don't like what you did or said.
Right.
Or I disagree with what you did or said. It's a completely different emotional activity to attack you as a person.
Right. Right.
So eat your turkey.
Eat the turkey.
Eat your turkey on Thanksgiving. I'll come over and throw the ham out the window.
Yeah, right over the balcony.
Yeah,
but I mean,
cats would love that.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so hate is a bad thing to harbor in your mind, in your chest, in your body, or whatever. And on the same token, anger can be an energy for you to get better at yourself. John Lydon said it in his band, Public Image Limited, anger is an energy. And anger can be an energy for you to better yourself because you're angry at yourself for not doing better?
Well, I think if you're in a bad situation and anger is the only thing that can get you out, sure. I don't know. I never really considered the fact that the positive things of anger. I think it's not something you want to hold on to or necessarily cultivate.
You want to use it in small bursts just to make yourself better, to get to where you want to be.
Well, yeah, and I think if you can try to not direct the anger at a person, you're better off. Again, I think if you, I mean, it's kind of abstract stuff here, but
Right.
It seems to me that you might be better off or healthier in a better mind if you can manage to be upset at something that was said or done. But maybe there's good uses for it too. I honestly never thought about that before.
I think it works perfectly for bettering yourself in physical activity. You wake up in the morning and you say in your mind, okay, today I'm going to do this amount of physical activity. I'm going to run 2 miles. I'm going to do 50 push-ups. I'm going to do 50 sit-ups. You only do 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sit-ups, 20 push-ups, right?
Right.
You only run 1 mile. Now you're mad at yourself. So the next day you push yourself to go further because now you're mad at yourself. And I think that's the anger, that's the energy. That's what I think.
Well, I know for sure I've been disappointed in myself before. I don't think I've ever ran 2 miles, but but I
Not from the cops anyway, right?
well let's. Well, you know, they ask you when you go for a job, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Well, how many times have you ridden in the back of a police car?
Convicted?
Convicted? Yeah.
Not.
Right.
Or, what was the other funny response? Ask you if I've been convicted of a felony.
Yeah, I remember
No, I was going to have you ask me, and the answer is nothing to brag about.
Right, nothing to brag about. Yeah, I remember, when I joined the Army and I went to MEPS, the Military Entry Processing Station, they asked me, how many times have you ridden in a police car? And that's their way, that was their way of getting you to open up and say,
Right.
say everything. So, yeah, that's a pretty tricky lot, the Army, so. But yeah,
I'm not sure what else to add. For the remainder of the program, I had sort of I wrote down here the first annual airing of random philosophical ideas.
ooh,
So
I like it.
yeah, maybe it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it's pretty apt. And I'm delighted to have Adam with the Darkest Corners.
Yeah, Darkest Corners of the World, the Steel Plaza podcast, the Vulgar Parts, the Wire Riots. So I'm here, and I'm in Andy's humble abode, and we're doing it live. So stick around. We'll be right back after this.
Yes, well, I think we've got about 1 more minute for the segment, but we are literally in a corner.
Literally in a corner.
So I guess this is the actual philosophy corner. For those who are wondering,
Where it was, it's right here.
yes,
There it is.
Yes, you can see the corner. It's in center frame. You know.
So that's where he philosophizes, right there.
Yeah.
So stick around. We'll be right back. And right back here on the Steel Plaza Podcast crossover episode, live from Andy's Philosophy Corner. Here, the Philosophy Corner, right here with Andy Hoke. And I wanted to ask you about one thing. Whatever happened to people thinking for themselves critically?
It's been more than a small concern of mine, and there's some more thinking that needs to be done, because I really, really think it's a big problem. as you put it, or as we sort of concluded, people are becoming dangerously dependent on spoon-fed information.
So anything they see on TV, that's what they believe, and
It was on TV, it must be true.
okay,
This newspaper has been around for 100 years, or this television station has been around for 50 years. And there's no way they would ever lie to me. And I really think it's dangerous, more so now than ever. Ironically, we're in the information age.
right,
And so I say you've got no excuse for not checking your own information.
right,
Something big happens, you don't need to believe what they say on TV. And maybe people need to hear that.
right. Do you think the answer is just to turn the TV off?
I think the answer is to find better information sources. And I'm going to give an order to the listeners. Find better information sources. They are out there. This isn't the 1950s where you only have a couple TV stations and a couple newspapers. And I know people get their news on the phone, but everything like Facebook and Twitter has really become de facto backing up what may or may not be true.
Mm-hmm. Was it the fact checker thing and all that?
Yeah, and
Fact checking.
right. And we said on this program, okay, well, who will fact check the fact checkers? Well, you can. You can fact check anything you like. Well, I guess with limitations. I mean, I'm not a microbiologist, so I can't do that. And if someone tells me
You can't make Ninja Turtles or anything, right?
no, but that if any of our listeners know why ninja shoes have that little thing for the big toe, boy,
While we were on the break, I asked Andy why he was wearing kung fu shoes because they look so comfortable, and I wanted to get them. And there's actual ninja shoes that have the separation in between the middle of the toes, and I don't know why that is. And if anybody's watching or listening, please let me know why that is. I need to know.
Okay, so and so maybe that sort of proves our point that I could ask Google or Siri or use the new Brave search engine to find out why that is. So, and suppose I asked, so if we have any ninja listeners, we're counting on you. We're counting it.
Kung Fu.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
Kung Fu was. Remember the show with David Carradine, Kung Fu?
I didn't see what kind of shoes he wore.
He wore those shoes. He wore the same slip-on shoes.
Okay, well,
yeah.
all right. But figuring stuff out for yourself is really not that hard. Okay, up to 20 years ago, you probably had to spend hours a day in a library to find stuff out that will take you seconds by using the new Brave search engine, currently in beta, not a sponsor.
Like you're not a shill for the company or something.
Right, but the really dangerous part, I think, is when someone tells me to do something, and I go and do it, and there's blowback from it, and I say, hey, someone told me to do it. I'm off the hook. Doesn't that make your blood boil when, Viva, just following orders?
So, yeah.
It's not a good excuse.
It's the whole idea behind the word acquiesce. Once you acquiesce.
Oh,
right?
Capitulation.
Right. You roll over and do what is told of you.
Well, I think it takes more than a little nudging. I work with technology with a large number of independent contractors, and my company rolls out new technologies. And part of what I do is get people comfortable with the new technologies And there's a few out there that I'm never ever doing that electronic thing. Okay, well, that's fine. That's where our business is. So
Right.
you understand if you see less work from us. And there's others that are super eager, and they're ahead of the curve. They're ahead of me. And there's a lot of people in the middle that really just need to get their feet wet. And that's sort of that middle ground that I'm counting on, that will say, hey, I don't have to get my news from Yahoo.
Right. Or
Don't get your news from Yahoo, everybody. Something else good to do, find yourself some good information sources. How do you know it's a good information source? Well, in the world of real estate appraisals, everything is predicated on the use of known, reliable information sources. So what does that mean to you? Well, you can, without too much trouble, find out if your information source has been forced to print any retractions, if they've done so willingly, if they were forced to do so, if they've never done so. But in this day and age, when there are literally thousands and thousands of news outlets, you've got no excuse for following a news source that has retracted. That means you can't trust them. And if they were in real estate, they could not be used as information sources, and everybody would stop using them. But I wish I had the list in front of me. Previously on the program, I listed, I think, at least 24 very popular information sources that have been forced to print retractions.
Now I've seen where you would Google a news story, and the date happens in the future, right?
No way.
Yes, many times. So how is that getting out, right?
Well, I mean, if it's happening in Japan, you know, they are.
Well, no.
day ahead.
I'm talking weeks in the future, where the date is completely off in the future. So how does that happen? Unless we are in, the wormhole that whatever everybody said, oh, the world ended in 2012 or whatever. Like, you want to go down that rabbit hole, you can. But how are news articles that you search for, you can search for them, how are they getting printed with a date way ahead in the future? Unless, right, they're...
Did the events in the article ultimately transpire?
They were opinion pieces.
Okay. I mean, so it wasn't really predictive, or was it?
I mean, some of them were predictive, saying that, the FDA is going to approve such and such thing. And I remember when I looked it up, and this was, I was at work doing this, by the way, and I looked it up, and the date was 5 days in the future as where it said the article was published. Is that weird?
Well, it's certainly off. I mean, it sounds like some inside information got out, I guess.
Yeah, but it was like set up to publish on a certain date, but it already had been put out there.
Right, they accidentally published it early.
Right. It makes you wonder.
Well, yeah. I mean, in this electronic age, when things break, the whole world kind of finds out all at the same time, and things just weren't like that when we were kids.
Maybe they put the wrong date in. I don't know.
Well, I guess that's one possibility.
Because there's days that go by where I don't know what day it is. So maybe, devil's advocate,
Well,
Like, I don't know what day it is right now, so just as an example.
okay.
But it's something that's, people latch onto. People latch onto that and they say, well, how could this have been published 5 days ahead of time?
Well, I mean, I guess logistically it isn't hard to publish something with an incorrect date.
Sure.
But if it appears that someone knew something was going to happen before everybody else, it makes you wonder, okay, well, how did they know that was going to happen?
How did they know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were they the gentleman from the Montauk Project, right? What was that? The famous movie, the Philadelphia Project, where they went on the ship and they went through time and they came back.
Okay.
No, it's,
Oh no!
I'm being stupid.
Or could be there's some major time shift type of stuff happening.
I don't know, man. It makes you wonder. It's crazy.
Anything's possible. Like I said, I was just watching Rick and Morty, and
I've never seen Rick and Morty. I need to get on board.
Well, before you leave the corner, maybe we can watch a quick episode.
Sure, we'll watch it.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know about interdimensional travel, but time travel, I tend to think it is not possible. But if it's ever going to be possible, 1,000 years from now, 1,000,000 years from now, it's also possible right now. So it's very hard to dismiss outright.
My mind just exploded, because if it is possible at some point, then it's possible now, because
Right.
if it's possible 1,000 years from now, it's also possible now because you can travel back in time.
Right.
My mind.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
I'm having an aneurysm. No, I'm not. I'm fine. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. They talked. I was just reading something about.
Philosophical podcast. Okay, go ahead.
I just saw an interesting. Well, there's a video. I scrolled past it, but it basically made the argument that time causes gravity, which is really weird.
Right. That's weird.
I never heard of that before.
Time causes gravity. Wow.
I don't know, man. Well, I think it was Groucho Marx who said, "Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana."
There you go.
So that's a weird one.
That is a weird one.
So,
I know that we wanted to talk about a certain author, and he's been around for a while.
Yeah. That guy, yeah.
Because he had a lot that relates directly to the topics that we're discussing.
Yes, a similarly sort of cynical person like myself and a lot of you and many others.
Well, I'm not cynical. I love the United States, and I love the whole world, and I love the Army.
Yeah. That's the spirit.
Whoa. USA. All right, go ahead.
All right. H.L. Mencken, born Henry Louis Mencken, the 12th of September, 1880. He died January 29th, 1956, and he's still dead.
Still dead.
He was a 20th century journalist, satirist, social critic, cynic, and free thinker.
Not like Mr. USA right here. Not a cynic. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's we're not going to get the fisticuffs. He was known as the Sage of Baltimore and the American Nietzsche, often regarded as one of the most influential American writers of the early 20th century. The earliest.
Well, early as it gets in the 20th century.
All right. Here's a book he wrote called The Philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, published 1908. It was morality that burned the books of the ancient sages, and morality that halted the free inquiry of the Golden Age and substituted for it the credulous imbecility of the Age of Faith. It was a fixed moral code and a fixed theology which robbed the human race of 1,000 years by wasting them upon alchemy, heretic burning, witchcraft, and sacerdotalism.
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 Okay.
Sacerdotalism. Everybody knows what that means.
Yeah, somebody,
no, we had to look that
please
word
tell
up.
me what that is.
Yeah, yes, we had to look that up.
Yeah.
Just pull that up again.
Yeah.
My internet isn't interneting. Okay, but it's basically sacerdotalism is someone who imparts to you something sacred. If that's not too simple a way to put it.
I think I understand what that means.
So something like a priest.
Mm-hmm.
So we've become reliant. Our discussion about the information age,
Right.
On someone is holy or they are a prophet, and they look to CNN like they look to Jesus Christ for guidance and for teachings and for
Right.
information and for truth. Maybe even for calls to action. Can't say for sure.
There was something that we looked at. He said something that really resonates.
Oh, I got it. Beginning of the show, our people, is the world going crazy?
Have we collectively gone insane?
Right. So this is related, I think. In his 1918 book, In Defense of Women, H.L. Mencken writes, civilization, in fact, grows more and more maudlin and hysterical, especially under democracy. It tends to degenerate into a mere combat of crazes. The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed and hence clamorous to be led to safety.
I think
By menacing it with an endless series of hobgoblins, most of them imaginary. So fear porn.
I feel like that's what this is.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where we are today.
Yeah.
Is fear. 100% fear.
The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed and hence clamorous to be led to safety by menacing it with an endless series of hobgoblins, most of them imaginary.
Yeah.
So, I think that ties in perfectly well with our theme
Right.
of, and I think we were discussing fear. And, they busted the one CNN guy who was saying, oh yeah, we put up these, the cases and the deaths. We always keep that right there in the corner of the screen because that makes people good and scared.
Yeah, you want to see that right out of the gate, you know what I mean? And then people want to repost that. Hurry up and repost that, you know what I mean? I know
It's fear porn, and it's
I know
dangerous and
people-
it's addictive.
it is addictive, and I know people personally that are so sunken in with their claws into that fear that they can't sleep at night. They cannot sleep at night because they're so sunken in that they want to repost this. They want to say it. They want to call you on the phone. They want to leave you a message. Have you seen the stats? Have you seen the numbers? Right? Okay. No, I didn't look at them. Well, okay, so I can.
No,
sleep
I had to
at
cut
night.
the grass.
I had to eat food. I had to go to work. I had to do a lot of things. So no, I'm not keeping up with these stats on who has whatever it is, who has COVID, who has black syphilis. No, I'm not looking at it because this is in no part of this is any of it in my world. None of it. Not one.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you go to the same legacy, old guard news sources or these super big tech sources, I think you need to look harder. I think you need to try harder. I think you deserve better. And it's out there for you, but I can't do it for you.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
find out what really happened. You don't have to settle for a characterization of events
Yeah, and then
from someone who wasn't there either. I wasn't at the event. The news person is telling me about it. Was the news person at the event? 99% of the time, no. But you can go online and find video very, very, very often. You can find video of actual events.
you can, and going back to the number crunching torch carriers that want to repost and repost the fear, the fear, the fear.
Right.
It's not helping anyone. It's not helping anyone.
Right. And so I would say no one ever needs to be afraid of anything. In fact, a wonderful line, I believe, from the Lord of the Rings, I believe it was Bilbo, says when he's considering going on his journey, he said, "It's dangerous business walking out your front door." Dangerous business. So do not be paralyzed by fear. Things are bad enough. We have enough to contend with without also having to manage people's fear, because people begin to behave irrationally. A lot of bad things happen. And, where has the time gone?
Oh, looks like we'll be right back after this. Right back here on the Steel Plaza podcast. This is the crossover episode with Andy Hope from Andy's Philosophy Corner. And we left off talking about fear and how to overcome it is something I would like to talk about a little bit. I remember when I was younger and I had to go to my grandparents' house and they would watch us for the summers and things like that. And I remember being terrified of the basement, right? I thought it was the scariest thing in the world. And as I grew older, I realized it's just a basement. But I was so scared of the basement, and not like in Home Alone where he was scared of the furnace or things like that, but you're just scared of things that are big and unknown. You know what I mean? There was the coal cellar, there was things like that. But as I grew older, I realized that was just sort of how it was. And there was actually nothing to be scared of.
Right.
So fear is sort of a product of the mind. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, you're in a place that you're not familiar, and you don't know what's behind that door or behind that stack of boxes, and your own mind sort of tells you that it might be something dangerous, but over time, of course, you find out that your parents didn't keep bear traps or ghosts
in spirits
in their basement,
right?
Or right, and it's kind of what was the word you used? Epiphany.
I had a moment of epiphany,
right,
where I realized, wow, this is just a basement, and that's
right.
What it is.
Right, your grandparents would never have anything or anyone
right
dangerous down there in their basement.
Right. And that's there's a rational fear. There's rational fears with everything. I have one personally, and it's kind of weird, but it's going to get my hair cut, okay? And so every time I get my hair cut, I know that the person that cuts my hair is going to do whatever they want because that's what they know how to do, no matter what you tell them, right? And you always leave with a haircut that looks pretty good, right?
Right.
A day goes by, right? Take the shower, next day goes on, and you can never replicate how it looked when you left. So now you don't know what to do with it, and that's what I have going on right now.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I have going. I can't replicate it. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just thinking. I thought that looked pretty good, and I wish I had that much hair.
Yeah, it took me 17 hours. No, I'm just kidding.
Holy cow!
Didn't take me that long.
Okay, well this is here's a story of an irrational fear of mine, and it's so straightforward, and it should be embarrassing. I guess I'm embarrassed, but I saw the movie Jaws when I was about 9 or 10, I guess. And I can remember
great movie
going to a swimming pool and not wanting to go in because there might be a shark in the swimming pool.
In the swimming pool.
That would eat me. public swimming pool.
Public swimming. Okay.
You know, and it wasn't a huge swimming pool. You could see the whole thing. You know, the water's clear, but I could sense that conflict in my mind of, I'm afraid there's a shark in there. There's not a shark in there. There can't be a shark in there. Well, there could be a little door that lets a shark in from the ocean.
They just
There's not going to be...
They pull this thing up and then a shark comes out and kills you. Yeah.
Right. No, it's a retirement village in Florida. I'm here with my family and grandparents. They probably don't have a whole lot of killer sharks in the swimming pools here.
No, probably
And
not.
so
probably
and,
not.
and so I overcame that, but I could sort of feel that mental conflict. Something a little bit similar that just very quickly, but acrophobia, the fear of heights. I can on certain situations at certain times, you know, I've been in that situation where here's an example. You're in a football stadium and you're way up in the top row and the seats are angled pretty steeply.
Yeah.
And part of me is always a little bit afraid that I'm going to tumble down 100 feet or whatever, but
Yeah. Well,
that's
because
not going to happen.
it's not. However, I'm with you on this one.
Okay.
That is so steep, and the stairs are so little. You have to take baby steps to go down to the next row.
Right.
That, yeah, man, that one always gets me. Like the baby steps, because you don't know if somebody spilled a beer or somebody like whatever.
Well, yeah, and speaking of alcohol, some of these people have been tailgating for like 5 hours and probably got 10 drinks in them. I don't know how they manage it, but if they can manage it, I can manage it. And so your logical part of your brain, a man-eating shark is not in the pool.
Right.
I'm not going to fall to my death from peanut heaven at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I don't know. In my mind, you still could. I don't know. Like that. I'm still.
It's
I'm not,
like a roller coaster.
Okay,
It's
I'm
scared
not
that it
scared.
hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened, but it still scares me because looking down, it looks like you could just fall forever, like down all those things. Like it's literally like once you're there, unless you're in that glass booth, like you paid whatever the hell it is, like $500 American to be in that cool booth with whatever it is. If you're in the stands, like it's so narrow that it looks like you could fall forever and not stop falling. You know what I mean?
Right. But there is, each of these stories I think kind of ends with an epiphany where, for me, it was the logical part of my mind. I sort of saying, don't be an idiot.
Right.
I see everybody going into the pool, getting out of the pool. No sharks, no fins, no blood in the water, and just logically telling yourself things that you know are true. I'm not going to tumble to my death at Heinz Field just because I'm up in the cheap seats.
Right, unless you're totally kicked in the ass on whatever it is, like vodka or something, then you're going to fall forever, right?
Well, I suppose that must have happened at some point.
I'm sure it did. They're so narrow.
All right. There's not those railings, is there? Or is there? I can't remember.
No, there's...
railings.
Okay, so there's one railing on one side. It's on the left side. And the railing breaks at some point for the seats to go in. Yeah. So you start walking down there, and it's like you almost have to have very small feet in order to walk down that
you
ramp.
got to turn your feet kind of sideways.
You have to turn them sideways, like you're in the Navy and going down that ladder where you have to walk akimbo, because if you don't, and if you go straight ahead with your feet, you're gonna fall, man, like backwards or forwards.
Damn.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's still a real fear for me. That's still a real fear.
Right. So, I think at one point or another, your fight or flight response is a very important survival mechanism, organ, part of the body. The amygdala, part of your brain that is kind of your librarian. It collects memories, it stores memories, it retrieves memories for you. And that's also your fight or flight response, is the same part of the mind, apparently. And it's a very, very important part. You know, it's the part of your brain that keeps you from walking in front of an 18-wheeler on a freeway.
Right.
You know, it's a very important part of the. It's the part of the brain that prevents you from eating a week-old cheeseburger sitting in a garbage can outside of Wendy's. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I've done it out of my refrigerator, but
yeah.
I've done it.
I just thought of something really funny from The Naked Gun.
I've been swimming in raw sewage. That would be me.
No. It's the one where he has the woman over to his apartment, and she said,
Lisa Marie Presley.
Probably. And she says, "Oh, I'm hungry. Let's have some dinner." And she goes into his refrigerator, and she pulls out some Chinese takeout, and she's like, "Oh, the Golden Dragon. I thought they closed down 2 years ago." You know, she takes a whiff and she passes out.
Oh yeah.
Because he's a bachelor with really old food.
Don't forget OJ was in that movie.
Oh my God! I was rewatching this lately.
Don't forget OJ.
Nordberg.
Yeah, Nordberg. Yeah,
Oh
he was in those.
What was that quote about truth is stranger than fiction? If we could finally accept that truth is stranger than fiction, the world would be a better place. Or
I wonder if he still gets royalties for those movies. You know what I mean?
OJ?
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
If he sold his Heisman Trophy, he probably sold those rights.
He might have. I don't know.
Legal fees. So,
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure what OJ is afraid of right now, but OJ, you don't have to be afraid of sharks in swimming pools.
You don't, and don't be afraid of your grandparents' basement. Don't be afraid of that. Be afraid of Heinz Field. Is it still called Heinz Field? I think it is. Did we change the name again? Is it not?
Not that I know of. I was trying to think of something clever, but nothing happened.
Okay, it was okay. I thought it was Heinz Field, but we keep changing the name.
But when we really learn to use our logical mind,
right? When you
to overpower our sense of fear, I think what you said was we become adults.
Right.
You're really mastering yourself, and you know that's not a small thing, and it's not always an easy thing. You know, it's funny, people have fear of public speaking.
Right.
That's like the third greatest fear or something: losing a loved one, or coming down with a terminal disease, or public speaking.
That's the weirdest thing to me, public speaking. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, like, you and I are on a different plane completely, because, I mean, we're clearly fine with speaking in public. We're, you know, being in front of an audience, doing things like that, because we're used to it. You know, we're conditioned to it. But the people that get that bug in their mind and are so terrified of it, like, that's something, like, I can't, like, really wrap my mind around, you know?
I think it's one of those things where people overthink it, and that's probably part of the fear component we were talking about.
It's an anxiety.
Just spend too much time. There is an eponymous law called Hebb's Law, which states very simply, neurons that fire together wire together. So learn to think in ways that will benefit you, that will be healthy to you. Obsessing over death statistics on the corner of a TV screen for an hour every day or 4 hours every day, I think could destroy a person. It could really take away from the quality of your life.
Right.
You know, ultimately, you fall asleep. You have to go cook something. You get a shower. You brush your teeth. You go to work. Maybe you play a video game, but I think it's very harmful to focus too much on things that might hurt you. That's just not the healthiest way to live, and I think it reduces the quality of life. So,
I mean, can you imagine the people? They go to bed at night, right? First thing in the morning, right? And they wake up and they're checking the stats. First thing in the morning. and they get a charge out of it, right? They're like, oh, I can't wait to post these stats. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what kind of mindset is that? Do you know what I mean? Like, what drives a person to say, oh man, here it is, here's the stats. I need to tell everybody this, right?
Well, if you're already invested in a set of opinions with your social circle, you have an investment. And I think people cultivate that investment in the decisions they've made, the statements they've made, the things you've written on social media, or in email, or in text message. Some people just commit so hard that
So they get a charge out of it, and it gives them an endorphin rush in their brain almost.
well, I guess that's why people do an awful lot of things.
Yeah.
Supposedly there's that endorphin rush, and so I just encourage people to I don't know, think positively and think about any one of us has had irrational fears from when we were a child. It could be anything. I have a very good friend who's an adult who's afraid of clowns.
Okay.
Okay, now
Right.
that's not to say.
That's a common thing, though. A lot of people are afraid of clowns.
Yeah, and I am not, and I mean, I don't think adults really have reason to be afraid of a clown, except for that one serial killer who dressed up as a clown.
Oh, John Wayne Gacy.
I guess so.
I know him by name, John Wayne Gacy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, be afraid of that clown, but other clowns, I don't think adults really need to worry about, or children.
I mean,
But overcoming that logical fear, this clown is not going to hurt me, and it doesn't make sense to me, but it's not my phobia. That's another thing. The word phobia has sort of been mistreated recently, and I know we're sort of coming to the end of the program, but it seems to me the word phobia has been repurposed to mean someone who doesn't like something.
oh, you're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right,
Like,
yeah.
if I don't like pineapple pizza and someone says, here, have some pineapple pizza, and I say,
You're a pinophobic.
I'm a pinophobic, and I'm a pinophobe.
Pinophobe.
And we know what we do with pinophobes. And so that's getting back to along the theme of the program, where societies kind of team up, and I don't know if it's fear that drives that or just the investment that
Investment into
in pineapple pizza or having ham at Thanksgiving dinner instead of turkey. Adam.
right, the mob mentality, right? So
Right.
so the mob mentality of the pineapple pizza people, they say, if you don't like pineapple pizza, you're a piece of shit. And
Right.
you are a piece of shit American.
I mean, instead of just blowing it off and saying, oh, God doesn't like pineapple pizza,
Yeah.
I'm not going to obsess over it. So I think when you obsess over something,
Yeah.
it's a cycle. It's something that repeats. And when something repeats, it keeps going around in circles, you get a new entity, like a hurricane or a tornado.
Right.
What are they made of? Well, just water and air. But they are their own thing. And similarly, too much fear is like a hurricane or a tornado.
Yeah, tornado.
Being destructive in your mind with these unhealthy recurring patterns.
So the unhealthy recurring patterns, you're mixing not you, they're mixing fear and hate, and they're making this perfect storm of what's giving them energy, what's giving them a charge, right? These groups of people that are saying, I'm on this side or I'm on that side. They're making that perfect hate, fear, energy.
Well, and in this country, it's usually worse during election cycles.
Sure is.
So,
Sure is.
But speaking of stuff, wow! Thank you, everyone who has been listening to and or watching this crossover episode
Thanks
of
so much.
Greatest Corner, the
Darkest corners of the world. Yep.
along with Andy's Philosophy Corner, and you finally get to see the actual corner. See?
There it is. There's
See?
the corner. It's right there.
Yeah, it's a corner.
We didn't sit in it so you could see it. So there it is.
No, it's just a happy accident. So, what's the people were asking us what the PayPal is?
Right,
For
so
folks who would like to show us a little support.
If you want to show your support and donate to the show, it's www.paypal.me/Steel Plaza Podcast. Your donations help go to each episode, to each program, to bring you all the stuff that you love to hear.
Yes, and so I have nothing else to add except thank you very much for your time and your attention and your support. Thank you, Adam, buddy, for coming by. We'll shake like fencers.
There we are. Shaking like fencers. Yeah, so until next time, thanks for tuning in, thanks for telling a friend, and we'll see you right back here.